where we went to Ghana, and this was my first trip outside of the United States other than I had been to Tijuana and I had been to Banff. And that was my international travel experience up to this time. And you know, I'm thinking if I'm going to travel, it's probably going to be to London or Paris, someplace normal. The idea of going to Ghana and Cuba was just an amazing thing that I never would have imagined. And Africa was a place that I just was never even on my radar screen. And now this was going to be the first place that I was going to travel to overseas. I'm not sure what I expected going to Ghana. We went during PANAFest, the Pan-African Theater and Music Festival that celebrates African unity, combined with Emancipation Day to commemorate the end of slavery. And it was quite a celebration. There were definitely moments when we felt like we were intruding into sacred places. While we were there, we met with scholars. We met with a professor of history from the University of Ghana. We also met with a professor of literature, a revered poet in Ghana named Kofi Anyidoho. And he isn't a trained historian by the normal sense of the word. He's learned his history, he said, through literature and through poetry and through art and a lot through film. And we met with him one day at Cape Coast Castle, which is right on the coast. Most of the castles that were built, the slave dungeons that were built, are on the coast of West Africa because it has a rocky shoreline. You wouldn't see it in Nigeria, which is more marshy and lagoons and what have you. And there were at one point over 100 slave forts or outposts dotting the West African coast. And learning this history, it's easy to become overwhelmed by it, by the magnitude of the slave trade. But Professor Anyidoho was just wonderful in working with us. There was the day that we met with him upstairs at Cape Coast Castle. And we're sitting in this room, and out one set of windows is a hill, and the top of which is Fort William, which was built to protect the castle from marauders coming from the land. It might have been the Fanti or the Asante people coming to attack. And then out the other window is the sea that you see through the parapets with the cannon still in place to protect from the potential for attack from the sea. And he said, here we are in this bright and airy room. You know, it's this wonderful place to be. And the top section, the top floor of the castle was all this way, you know, bright, airy, open. And this was where the governor had his living quarters, where they did their business, the offices where trade deals would be done and what have you. And then he pointed out the window into the courtyard, which is the main floor of the castle, and it's just basically a large courtyard with a cemetery in the middle of it where there are several people buried, and a church. The first Anglican church built in Africa is right there at Cape Coast Castle, and directly beneath the church are the dungeons where people would be held waiting for the ships to come to take them across the Middle Passage.